Welcome to the Cabinet of Creepy. Some people think a story is just something fun before bed. Something to fill a little time on a rainy day or distract you from being a nuisance for a little while. But a great story, a real story, will make you think. It will take you to another world or another time. A great story could lift your spirits or chill you to the bone. Treats. A wonderful thing. But you can have too much of a good thing. Little girls and little boys who have too many toys and treats can find themselves in quite a pickle if they're not careful. The important thing is to know when you've had enough and not to push your luck in asking for more and more and more. What if you got so focused on wanting that you found yourself with everything you asked for, but nobody to share it with? Do you have a brother or a sister or both? Well, lucky you if you do, and lucky you if you don't. Life can be much more straightforward when you're going it alone with no distractions, but a friend made just for you is just fine too. Another you, bigger or smaller, to share your stories with, your memories, toys and treats and even clothes with. But what if you were a brother who only thought about himself? And that's where we find our story. A young boy who wanted everything, and then a little more. This boy had brothers and sisters galore, some older, some younger, some taller, some smaller. But, unlike his siblings, this little boy would gobble and grab and hide instead of giving and passing and sharing. Whether it were chocolate coins at Christmas, toys at playtime, or candies collected on spooky nights and knocking, this boy would rather fill his pockets than enjoy a happy moment with his family. Such a shame. He was too young to understand that the fun we have is all the better when spread, not hidden beneath your bed. Now one day in autumn, the boy's eldest brother, which meant he was the brother who had endured the boy's greediness the longest, grew tired of his little brother's snatching toys and sneaking them away. "You're so greedy," the older brother snapped. The younger boy didn't care and told his big brother that he was going to get all the toys and treats he wanted and hide them from everyone else so he could have it all to himself. The bigger brother said that the younger one was worse than the little man who never shares his gold. The younger boy stopped, confused. You see, it wasn't that he didn't know who this man was or what made him little, but he was more interested that there was gold to be had. Imagine, the little boy thought, if he had his own gold, he could buy all the toys he'd want and a great big chest to lock them away into so that no one else could ever get to them. He could buy all the sweets and treats he wanted and never have to share them with his brothers and sisters ever again. Seeing his younger brother's eyes light up at the thought of more pinching and pilfering, the bigger brother decided it was time to teach him a lesson. Knowing some of the silly stories people tell of fairies and goblins, Big Brother thought he would play a trick on the boy and tease him with something that wasn't real. If only Big Brother had known just how greedy the boy was, for his trick would be more effective than he could ever imagine. If you want to have as much gold as the little man, the Big Brother said, and if you think you could persuade him to share, well, it's really quite simple. You must wait, little brother, for a storm with great heavy rain clouds that groan and grumble with their weight of water. Whilst the rain pours down, you must open your window, just a little will do, and place a coin on your window sill. Once the rain has come and gone, the little man will appear. Maybe then you'll be able to get enough of what you want. Thinking his little brother would wait all night for a visitor who would never come, Big Brother left the boy, who rushed to look out the window for storm clouds. He would have to wait a day or two more, but as soon as the sky was grey and heavy, the boy climbed under his bed to a secret stash of precious things he had collected. Taking a coin, though it wasn't worth much, he placed it on the windowsill, opened his window just a touch, and watched as rain began to dash against the pane. If the little man came, he could have all the things he ever wanted. The rain trickled down, then showered, poured, and finally hurled itself against the little boy's window. As minutes turned to hours, the boy couldn't hold off sleep any longer. But what a surprise he had when the morning came. The boy woke to find a tiny little man, no larger than he was, sitting on the narrow windowsill, chuckling to himself. Now, by the size of this man, his jolly little giggle, and the odd hat that was perched atop his head, the boy would have almost found him funny to look at. But there was something wrong with how this man looked. The boy couldn't quite decide what it was. Perhaps it was his scratchy-looking beard, the way his smile turned up at the corners of his mouth, the narrowing of his eyes as he laughed. The boy didn't like it, but he also couldn't believe it. It worked. You came. You're the little man with all the gold. The little man just laughed to himself some more and flipped the coin that the boy had left the night before into the air, snatching it as it fell. When the little man opened his hand again, the coin had become gold, shining in the little bit of early morning light that pushed through the still clearing clouds. So you'd like a little gold, would you, my boy? The little man smiled a smile that the boy didn't like one bit. There wasn't one drop of kindness in it. It almost made the boy question whether this really was a little man, or if it was some sort of something else. But just at the moment where the boy felt like he wanted to run downstairs and cry out for his parents, his big brother, anyone at all, his greed got the better of him. Yes, I want all of your gold. I'm going to buy anything and everything I want, and buy a great big house to live in all by myself, so I don't have to share any of it with my silly brothers and sisters anymore. The little man's smile widened across his pale face, till it seemed he was more smile than anything else. Sounds awfully lonely to me, my boy. All that money, but no one to enjoy it with. Aren't you certain you wouldn't just like your one coin back, now that it's been turned to gold? That's not enough. I couldn't buy half the toys and sweets I want with that silly little thing. I want all the gold you have, so I can buy a whole sweet shop, a whole toy shop, all to myself. The boy swung his legs out of his bed and leaned forward at this funny little man, his greed making him far more confident than he should have felt. You're a silly little man. You're barely even bigger than a boy like me. If you don't give me what I want, I'm going to scream and scream until my father comes in here with my big brothers, and they'll give you what for sneaking up into my bedroom. You better hand over your gold, or else. The little man stopped smiling, and the boy wished he hadn't. Very well, young sir. I can see you truly do wish to have my gold, and it doesn't seem like anything at all that I could say or do could stop you. Usually I would perhaps try to play a little trick on you, but I can see that you really do wish to take my treasure. Such a shame, as I do so love to play my little tricks. Oh well, come closer and let me show you where you may find all the gold you could imagine. The boy leapt from his bed, his selfish excitement making him so giddy to get what he wanted that he didn't even notice that the little man's smile had melted back on to his face. As the boy approached, the little man held up a long, bony finger. The boy stopped. With the lightest of touches, the little man tapped the window, which was still only slightly ajar, and it swung wide open to reveal a rainbow. But not just any rainbow. A rainbow seen from across hills or off in the distance. This rainbow seemed to be leading out directly from the boy's house into the fields beyond his street. Looking down the rainbow for its end, the boy saw the most amazing, glittering and shimmering golden light. He swore he could hear the mountain of gold coins jangling and rattling at the end of this magical pathway. He went to climb straight out of his window to see more. So excited the boy was to have everything he could wish for so close to hand. But the little man pressed his hand on the boy's chest. Now, we don't want you falling. The little man explained that ordinary people couldn't just go walking along rainbows, or he'd have never been able to collect any of his gold in the first place. No, the boy would need the little man's special shoes to be able to step along the rainbow. Well then, give them to me, cried the boy impatiently. He could hardly contain his thoughts of chocolate, candied sweets, the finest toys, and having it all to himself, with no one to share it with at all. The little man said he would need to trade to give his shoes to the boy. After all, he couldn't go about with nothing on his feet. How would he get home? It needn't be anything fancy, he said. How about those slippers of yours there? The boy rushed back to his bed, seized his slippers and turned to give them to the little man. As soon as he did this, he saw that the little man's funny little shoes were already on his own feet, their big, shiny buckles seemingly tightening to a perfect fit. As he looked back to the little man, he was already slipping on the second slipper and gesturing the boy to the open window. The little man smiled that smile again, and with a small chuckle to himself this time. It seemed as though that smile was draining all the light from the boy's bedroom, pulling it all into the little man's face, which was framed by his odd hat and that scratchy-looking beard. Not that the boy noticed. He ran to the window and, so excited by his selfish thoughts, bounded through it without a second thought, landing with a gentle fizz on the surface of the rainbow. He was standing on a rainbow. And now to his gold. The boy ran with sparkling steps towards that golden shining light to collect his prize and spoil himself with everything he ever wanted. But there was a problem. With every step he took, the mounds of treasure seemed only to move further and further away. Run as he might, the boy came no closer to reaching his reward. He heard his window slam shut behind him, a thud, and the click of a latch. The boy turned to run back, but realised he had barely moved at all. He shouted back through the glass to the little man, who now sat on the boy's bed. But something had changed, and it froze the boy in a moment. The little man didn't look like the little man anymore. As the boy looked through the window into his own bedroom, he didn't see that odd little creature standing there, but himself. The little man had taken the shape of the boy. He was even wearing the boy's night clothes, with his hair all ruffled and scruffy as if he had just woken from his sleep. He looked exactly like the boy now. The boy, still standing at the window, cried out at the little man, scared and confused, but noticed that his voice sounded altogether different. He banged on the window and noticed his hands weren't his hands anymore. He looked at his reflection and a silent scream wheezed out from his open mouth. The boy was a boy no more. Long, bony fingers, an odd hat perched atop his head and a scratchy-looking beard. The boy now looked just as the little man had done. What was happening? How had they switched? The little man had tricked him. The boy heard his brothers and sisters waking and running downstairs, laughing and joking. He heard his father joining them, and his mother calling him down for his breakfast. Suddenly, the boy thought not of toys and chocolate, but of daily moments of joy and love that cost nothing. "I'm coming, I'm coming," the boy heard the little man call back in his voice. This trick wasn't fair. The boy only wanted a treat. This wasn't fair. The clouds all around the boy that were fading away were now closing back in, swallowing him up and closing in on his vision. He didn't seem to be standing on anything now. The rainbow had all but disappeared. As the deep grey enveloped him, the last thing the boy saw was the little man, looking exactly like the boy had, dropping a golden coin into his pocket and smiling that wide, sickly, terrible smile. And so one boy learned that when in search of treats, you may only find tricks await you. That boy may now understand that he had everything he needed without getting everything he ever wished for. But do you? Remember to think of others and not just yourself, or you might hear a chuckle in the night and find yourself not feeling yourself at all.